So this sermon is an invitation for us to talk about death and see how death can bring life in your life to you in a personal, in a collective way, in a physical, in a mental, and in a spiritual way. So welcome to the sermon, Put into Death. Death. What if we talk about death this morning? We don't like to talk about death. We don't want to die. We avoid conversations about death because we don't know how to handle death. We don't know how to deal with death. But however, if our hope is in Jesus and the resurrection of Jesus, then we need to talk about death, you know? Because there's no resurrection without death. There's no Easter Sunday without Good Friday. Death is needed to bring life, to have life. And I'm not talking from the experience of having lost like close relatives. So I want to be mindful and sensitive of that because I don't have the knowledge and the feelings of those experiences. So I want to clarify that. But in a different sense, I have experienced death when I decided to follow Jesus. It was a death of myself. I died to myself in order to follow Jesus. You know, I have to deny myself, whatever version of myself. And I have to do that pretty much constantly every day, like in order to focus on Jesus. From that perspective, I can speak. You know, I can also speak from the perspective of Matthew chapter 16:24 says, "Take up your cross and follow me." And if you think about this, when Jesus took the cross, what happened after that? There was death. You know, and Jesus says, "Take your cross and follow me." And I have take up my cross to follow Jesus, to be here. I was thinking that one of the things that I can experience death is the death of having proximity to my relatives and to my family, you know, in order to be here. I can speak from that experience. And I was thinking that when I wrote this, I wasn't thinking about Princess and Baby Ellie. But it makes sense this morning because they're not here, you know. And there's a death in the process of that brings grief, that brings something, you know. But sometimes things needs to put to death in order to bring life, you know. So I can speak from that. So let's talk about death. So death came to earth according to the scriptures because of Adam and Eve. Before that, we don't have record of death before Adam and Eve. But because of the sin, then their death came to earth, you know. And what I can see also in the scripture is that sometimes some things need to die for others to have life. You know, Ecclesiastes, Solomon is saying in chapter 7, verse 1 through 4, "A good reputation is more valuable than costly perfume. And the day you die is better than the day you were born. Better to spend your time at funerals than at parties. After all, everyone dies. So the living should take this to heart. Sorrow is better than laughter, for sadness has a refining influence on us. A wise person thinks a lot about death, while a fool thinks only about having a good time." And again, we're talking about death because this week is Easter week. A week from today is going to be Easter. And then on Friday, what we think about is the death of Jesus. And we're talking about death because we glorify on Easter, but sometimes we forget that death needed to happen in order for us to have the Easter. In order for us to be able to celebrate life, death needed to happen. No resurrection without death. And we didn't have life before that death of Jesus, you know. In Romans chapter 5, verse 8 to 10, it says, "But God showed His great love for us by sending Christ to die while we were still sinners." And since we have been made right in God's sight by the blood of Christ, He will certainly save us from God's condemnation. For since our friendship with God was restored by the death of His Son while we were still His enemies, we will certainly be saved through the life of His Son. So death needed to happen in order for us to be reconciled with God. Death needed to happen in order for us to have life in God. Death was something that needed to happen, but it's something that we don't like to talk about. But because of that death of Jesus, now we can have hope. Now we can have a relationship with God. Now we can see life in a different way because of Good Friday. You know? N.T. Wright wrote this in a book that is called Surprised by Hope. And he said, if Calvary means putting to death things in your life that need killing off if you are to flourish as a Christian and as a truly human being, then Easter should mean planting, watering, and turning up things in your life, personal and corporate, that ought to be blossoming, filling the garden with color and perfume, in due course, bearing fruit. So he's putting a reflection around Easter, you know, and he says, if Calvary means putting to death things in your life that need to be killed enough for you to flourish as a Christian, then Easter means life, you know. But again, for Easter, we need a Good Friday. There was no Easter without Good Friday. There's no life without some kind of death. So the question this morning that I want to ask, and I'm going to repeat this question multiple times, is what are the things that you need to put to death in your life? Because I think that we understand Christ, we believe in His death and His resurrection, and we get what that gives us. But in a personal way, in a personal sense, in our daily lives, we may not know what that means. We don't live as person that understand what is death and how life comes after death and the glorious and the joy that we can experience because of that process. You know, we just remember about that during Easter, but then we just think that everything is just going to parties, like Solomon was saying, you know, being happy. You cannot be sad, you know. Everything is just about partying and being happy. And maybe we're not thinking about how Easter and Good Friday can apply to myself. How every time that we come on Sunday and partake of the Lord's Supper, we remember His death. And we are actually remembering the blood and the body. We're not remembering the resurrection part, you know? But how can that affect our lives if we don't put things that needs to be put to death in order for us to flourish? What do you need to kill off in order for you to flourish as a Christian and as a human being? What are the things that are stalking you and that are not letting you see Easter? What are the things that are blocking you so you're not able to move to Easter? And you're still probably living in death while Jesus rose from the death. Colossians chapter 3, verse 3 and 5 through 5 says, for you died to this life, and your real life is hidden with Christ in God. And when Christ, who is your life, is revealed to the whole world, you will share in all His glory. So put to death the sinful, earthly things lurking within you. What do you need to put to death? Because now you have life. That's what the verse is saying. Because of what Jesus did. But then he says, so put to death. So it's kind of like we're living in life with death in different parts of our bodies and our minds. With things that need to be off. Because now we are alive. Now we have a new life. But for some reason we're carrying some part of that in our minds, in our hearts, in our bodies that we haven't put to death. And he says, you have a new life. Therefore, put to death the sinful and earthly things lurking within you. What do you need to put to death this morning? What are the things that you need to kill off in order for you to flourish? Maybe bad habits. Maybe bad thoughts. Maybe unforgiveness. Maybe toxic relationships, toxic habits, toxic rhythms, toxic ideas. Maybe you need to put to death the toxic part in you. You know, once I heard that if you don't have a friend that is toxic, that means that you're the toxic friend. So maybe you need to put to death your toxic part. Maybe you don't have a friend that is toxic. Maybe you're the toxic person that gained life because of what Jesus did on the cross. But you're not living in that way. You know, you're still living in death. You're still living inside. There's death in you. And what Jesus did on that cross while he died, it means nothing right now in your life because you just carry death. What are the toxic things that you need to put to death this morning? And sometimes you put to death things by bringing life, you know? Sometimes you need to get rid of things, but sometimes you need to bring things, you know? Sometimes instead of getting rid of friends, you need to bring friends. But friends that help you live as a Christian and as a truly human being. Friends that help you grow, that help you flourish as a Christian and not bring you back to death. People and contexts and environments that bring you back to life, not to death. Sometimes you need to put to death those environments in order for you to flourish, you know? But sometimes we are so used to death that we're scared of going to Easter because we don't know what life it will look like on Easter Day. You know? We don't know how it look like to be in light, to be flourishing, to be like bright. So we go back to death because that's our pattern. And that's the way we have been. And even though Christ died for you, and maybe you're baptized, and maybe you have a new life, you haven't experienced that new life, and you're still living in death. What are the things that you need to put to death this morning? Verse 5 and 6 says, so put to death the sinful, earthly things lurking within you. Have nothing to do with sexual immorality, impurity, lust, and evil desires. Don't be greedy, for a greedy person is an idolater, worshiping the things of this world. Because of these things, the anger of God is coming. What do you need to put to death? Maybe your heart, your soul, your mind, your strength. Well, the Bible says that when you go to the water, you became part of the new covenant. You receive forgiveness. And now you have a new life. And we have talked in the previous Sundays that you get a new heart, actually. So what means to the other one? Is that you get a new one. So if you haven't gone, you haven't made your decision, your covenant, you know, today can be the day. Enough with the commercial of baptism, let's go back to death. But when you are in Christ, you go to another level. Because you may think, well, these kind of things I don't have in my life. You know, I don't have sexual immorality. I'm not a greedy person. Okay, the verse, Paul probably knew that. 7 and 8. You used to do these things when your life was still part of this world. But now is the time to get rid of anger, rage, malicious behavior, slander, and deeper language. It goes deeper. Now, it's not the things that you don't do. I don't kill anybody. I don't do that kind of stuff. But it goes deeper in things that it's still you need to put to death. Bad behavior, toxicity in you, maybe expectations of what life should look like and how you should look like, because you're living in those expectations and not in the life of Jesus. You're living in those expectations, and those expectations are actually bringing death to you because you're not experiencing Easter. What are the things that you need to kill off to flourish as a Christian? What are the things that you need to put to death? That has been there for a long time. You know them. Maybe some of you in the beginning of the sermon, you were like, I don't even know what I need to put to death. You know what you need to put to death. You know. You don't need to ask me. I don't know you. I am not you. You know what you need to put to death. Then if Christ died on Friday for you, and he rose again on Sunday for you, then why you don't put to death those things that you need to put to death? Why are you not validating and appreciating the sacrifice of Jesus on the cross by putting to death those things that you need to die in yourself and kill them off? No more. Because that's no part of who you are. You're not living on Friday, you're living on Sunday. And that's why Jesus came, because we were dead on our sins so that we can have a new life. Why do we want to still live in death? We don't want to talk about death. But sometimes we live as people that are in death. We do nothing. Your body is just there, laying down and doing nothing. No light, no flourishment, no flowers, nothing is coming out. What are the things that you need to put to death? Verse 9 and 10 says, don't lie to each other, for you have stripped off your old sinful nature and all its wicked deeds. Put on your new nature and be renewed as you learn to know your Creator and become more like Him. What are the things that you need to put to death that are distorting the image of your Creator? Because you were created on the image of God. What are the things that you're doing that it doesn't make sense with the image of God? What are the things that you need to put to death that makes you not look like God? What are the things that you need to kill off in order for you to reflect the image of God and your Creator? So that you can see that in your life and that all the people can see that in you. Because we were created in His image. Then what the people should look at me is the image of God. Is the image of the Creator. Because now I am saved. Now I have a new life. Now I'm not living in death. I'm not living in Good Friday. I'm living on Easter. And God is not a God of dead people. He is a God of the living. Because He is alive. What are the things that you have in yourself that are not reflecting the image of God and that you need to get rid of them? What are you waiting for to get rid of them? And what are you scared of to get rid of them? What could happen? What could happen if you rose on Sunday? What could happen? What would life look like if we rose again on Sunday? And you can see that in Jesus. While His body was dead and He rose again, He was able to do multiple things. His body was a physical body, but He was able to do kind of like supernatural things. Because He rose again, and that's Easter. And that's what has given us the opportunity to do. So put on your new nature and be renewed as you learn to know your Creator and become like Him. And sometimes we put God somewhere that we think that we cannot be like him. If that is true, then he's lying. Why is he asking me to do something that I'm not going to be able to do? Why is Paul saying that if he knows I'm not going to be able to do it? Is he condemning me right away? Is he doing that right away? Because he knows I'm not going to be able to be like God. Why is he asking me to do that? Because in part, it's not because of what you can do or cannot do. It's because of what Jesus did for you on the cross. And it's because of Easter Sunday. And like I said the other day, for me, that's 99.99. And then God is like, Danny, can you do the 0.01? And I'm like, oh, that's so hard. Because I don't know what it is to be 100% Danny. I still want to carry my thoughts and my insecurities, my unworthiness, and my past and all things. That doesn't make me live and be a new person and enjoy the present time with you and with me. I don't know what it would look like. So I would rather stay on whatever situation I have in me and in my mind. So what are the things that you need to put to death? What are the things that you need to kill off? What are you waiting for to do that? 1 Corinthians chapter 15, 36 and 37 says, let me say something about this before. I know nothing about planting. Princess gave me the responsibility to take care of her plants. Yesterday she asked me, how are my plants? And I was like, how are you? I was like, don't ask me that, I don't know. So I know nothing about plants, but I learned something from Paul, the Apostle Paul, about plants. 1 Corinthians 15, verse 36 and 37 says, when you put a seed into the ground, it doesn't grow into a plant unless it dies first. And what you put in the ground is not the plant that will grow, but only a bare seed of wheat or whatever you're planting. So in order for you to see the beautiful plant, the seed needs to die. Isn't that interesting? I was expecting to learn that from Princess, not from Paul. I thought Paul was something more spiritual. But he's teaching me about planting and all that stuff. So I want you to check behind your chairs. Not every chair will have one, so every other chair, if you don't have one, check the next one, you will find one. Check right now. And take something that is over there. And these are, go to the next slide, these are cosmos seeds. And I chose this plant because of the name. The name is Cosmos. And I was thinking, okay, everybody here? Yeah. I put to death the momentum that we had. You needed some relief. That's why you're laughing, because you're scared. I'm scared. But I wanted to talk about this. So this plant, the name of this seed, or the plant that comes out of this seed, is Cosmos. And I was thinking, in your cosmos, because it's your cosmos, it's not my cosmos. I don't need to put to death the things that you're putting to death, because that's your life, that's not my life. I don't need to go around and while you're killing off, that's the things that I need to kill off. Not necessarily. You need to look at yourself in your cosmos, in your life, with your past, with your present, with your good moments in life, with your traumas, with everything that you have that carry you and bring you to this point and to this morning. In your cosmos, what are the things that you need to put to death in order for you to flourish and become a beautiful plant or multiple flowers? And I was thinking also the idea that, but you don't live in your own cosmos. You live in a bigger cosmos, in a cosmos actually. where the decisions that you make will not affect only your life, but also the life of other people. What are the things that you need to put to death so that other people can have life? Because you're not carrying that debt anymore. Because other people are surrounded by you. There are other people in the cosmos. You don't live by yourself here in this cosmos. And your decisions will affect yourself and the people that are around you. Probably they have been carrying also the darkness that you're carrying. Probably they have been also carrying the Friday that you're carrying the whole time. Probably they have been also having to be responsible of carrying the debt that you're carrying to this point, because you haven't been able to put to death those things. And you haven't been able to bring life into your life. The life that you have available because of what Jesus did. You don't need to do anything crazy. You don't need to go and die on a cross. That wouldn't make sense. You will only die at that point. Nothing will mean. You're not going to rise again on Friday. You don't need to do that. Jesus did that for you. But maybe in the cosmos that you're surrounded and the people around you are suffering because of the death that you're carrying. So it's not just affecting you, it's affecting also the people around you. What are the things that you need to put to death in order for you to bring life for yourself and for other people? What are the things that you need to get rid of, that you need to kill off? You need to say no more. Why am I there? So I want you to take these seeds and put it in a place so that you can think about the things that you need to put to death. There are maybe 3 seeds in your bag. Maybe you need to kill 30. Or maybe you need to kill just 1. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's not my life. It's your life. It's not my relationship with God. It's your relationship with God. And I'm here to maybe bring you life and bring you hope, you know. So think about this. Carry it with you. And as we think about Jesus' death this week and Good Friday, so I want you to think about his death as an opportunity for you to die, to go on Saturday, where is a moment of silence, and then rise again. And think about what did he give you when he died on the cross, and how your life can be different because of what he did on the cross. What are the things that you need to kill off? What are the things that you need to put to death? But I can see a lot of potential in you. Maybe I can see a lot of seeds here, but maybe in the future, in the spring, we'll have multiple flowers and multiple colors. And that's what we're going to talk about this coming Sunday. I can't wait for this Sunday. Yesterday I couldn't sleep because I was thinking I need to go tomorrow and preach, and I want Sunday to come. Because I don't want us to remain in death. I want to see this road, metaphorically, because I'm not going to make it grow. But I want you to think about that this week. But I can see potential, I can see multiple flowers, multiple colors, and life in here. God bless you.